Hello and welcome back to F1 Manager 24, Creator Team Mode, ACGP Race number 5, Sprint Race number 1. It's China. We're going to start on this page because I realised something after the end of the last recording, because it's a layover problem from F1 23 where the AI don't replace their car parts until race day. It's race day, and now our average position in the performance makes sense again. The weird thing is, the current overall ranking seems to be accurate at all times, but the actual bars underneath with the breakdown seem to still be reliant on whatever parts every single car has at that moment in time. So after the last race, a bunch of other teams presumably had parts missing on their cars, and thus we were looking like we were in the top half in some areas. Not the case. DRS effectiveness basically the only one. It now makes sense we're averaging 17th and 18th. And as for China, 17th. So that makes sense again. Weird that the overall ranking seems to still be accurate no matter what, but, you know, better than nothing, I guess. With that in mind, also you can see on this page, current project suspension, side pods, and underfloor are still being worked on. They're not here yet in terms of designs, but we do now have front and rear wing on both vehicles. And that, I do believe, is that.
We're just getting settled here in Shanghai, ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix. A visit to Shanghai International Circuit can only mean it's time for the Chinese Grand Prix. This state-of-the-art track combines high G-force corners with one of the longest straights on the calendar, and with space for up to 200,000 spectators, not a minute of action will be missed.
In this round, the teams have 2 races to contend with both the Sprint and the Grand Prix offering the chance to bag some championship points.
The weekend begins here.
So of course there's only one practice session, which means no different for you guys. You don't get to see that anyway. But it will mean for me, I'll be back sooner than I normally am, because we've got to deal with sprint qualifying, and race. I'll try to keep the qualifyings down. Admittedly, that'll be mostly because we'll be out in the first portion anyway. I tell you what, that's especially embarrassing for Pierre Gasly there in practice. I know he's on mediums and we did ours on softs there, but considering these times were done with everything on conserve and every single modifier, avoid, you know, high curbs and all that, considering we had everything to make our laps as slow as possible. Come on, Pierre. So shout out to Haas giving Chloe Chambers a run out there in a practice session for a sprint session. I mean, they've thoroughly modded Kevin Magnussen, haven't they? And Logan Sargent, for that matter. They've not had any practice at all. Bottas, actually. Love to see Teo, but Bottas. So yeah, that's the best we're going to get. I'm not sure they've done the best job with this pit lane, graphics-wise. I did sort out their setups before we got going here. Obviously a shorter stint, but we should be able to get 2 laps in and still do the regular in SQ1 anyway. And yeah, I love the fact it's not saved my changes. I fixed the thing on the back and it's not fixed. I'll be honest, trying to understand whether or not livery changes have been saved or not is incredibly difficult. I don't know why. They've kind of done that thing that you get in online forums where it's like, please don't tick this box if you don't want correspondence. So I never know whether or not I'm actually getting the changes or not. Seemingly, I've not got the changes. It's just putting that one on the back down a smidge so it's not crossing the DRS flap, that's all. But one more race with it, unaligned properly. Smidge irritating. Anyway, let's knock out these early laps. It's taken them so long to just do one lap. Are we actually going to have time to do this properly? So Mick didn't actually improve on his second lap. Is that traffic? No, Maloney didn't improve because I guess he ran out of battery or something. I don't know. Perez has had a stinker. All right, so it's the same tyres, but just one glory run. Everyone's come out at weird times in SQ1. I don't think they actually know what to do properly. 36 degrees, so we won't actually push the tyres until a relative portion into the lap, because they should get hot. I mean, they are mediums as well, of course. They've already done. Wow, they tyre decks here really bad. Actually, I'm glad we've saved harder tyres. But yeah, we'll let them get a reasonable portion into this lap before we go. Right, let's attack these.
Copy.
Because at 37 degrees track temperature, they are going to get hot quickly. And you know what? Mick's more in danger here. We might focus on him. Do well to clear that. We do have the tyres up to temperature.
Copy.
And I think we've got ourselves in a good spot between what appears to be a Williams. It's a very distant toe if there is a toe at all, though. And it's used tyres. And Fast 8, no. Yeah, everyone else is in a similar boat. They only did one run originally rather than two, but faster first sector for both. Was that Ricardo just going 7th? No, I think it was one of the Mercedes going 5th or 6th. The car that was between Maloney and Mick Schumacher's just moved up. I can't remember who that was. One of the Hasses, perhaps? Judging by who's crossed the line. Wait, where's Perez? I don't have time to have a look. He's not taken the checkered flag. But I'm pretty certain there's a... I don't know who that is under the Ferrari, but that might be Perez. Faster first and second sectors for Mick Schumacher. Considering these tyres have lost 20% before we even started the lap, this is going to be interesting. Mick finds himself 13th. Maloney finds himself 14th. Nicely done. And the important question is, where's Perez? Oh, so Perez was actually loose and on a flying lap, as is Stroll. The two Astons are here. So Maloney is not safe. Mick is, but Maloney isn't. Not really traffic there. That was Alonso going high. Stroll's gone high. Maloney is going to get pushed out by Perez unless he's had a stinker somewhere in this lap. He hasn't. Still only 8th in fairness, and Verstappen was only 12th. Interesting. So we do lose Maloney, and we didn't focus on him. Oh, Red Bull's not on a hard, is it? No. So you can actually push the tyres quite late in the lap. I'm only doing single run here just because obviously the time is a lot shorter. Shout out to Bottas getting through, by the way. Yeah, so just to note, I do need to push these tyres a lot later in the lap than I originally thought. Perez is having absolute nightmare. He locked up in turn 9 there. 133.9 from Mick, obviously completely unhindered. Leclerc does a 131.9 just to make things into perspective there. Good lord. Obviously, we're not expecting Mick to get out of this session, but Perez has just come straight back in, actually. He hasn't even bothered to complete the lap. I think Perez is about to do his flying lap just as everyone's coming out of the pits again. Perez could be in real danger here. Perez is in real danger here. I don't know if he had to slow down for Magnussen going wide or not. I actually do want to watch this because I want to know if Perez was caught in it. Perez is behind there, yes. So Perez would have had to slow down for that. There he goes. I thought I'd left that late, but I hadn't. We found ourselves a nice space, actually, to do a flying lap here. Overtook the McLaren and the Ferrari on the straight there, and now got itself in a pocket between them and the Aston Martins, plus, I think, one of the red RBs. Left it actually a little late on the tyres this time round, it seems. But they won't be overheating at the end of the lap now. Slower first sector, though. To be fair, yeah, Mick does need to get half a second to catch an RB, which is ridiculous at this stage of the season. Red Bull still off the pace, worth noting. Slower middle sector as well. Yeah, so we're not expecting anything here then. Still overheating by the end of the lap anyway. 40 degrees on track is a lot. Magnussen gets his teammate. Somebody went even faster there. 13th we'll take. It is very much the best of the rest. Verstappen has come to party at last. That was a lot closer in the end. And Leclerc couldn't replicate his Q2 time there and ends up P3 on the grid. Oscar Piastri in second. I don't know if Mick's going to have a problem this sprint because...
Well, the excitement levels continue to rise here as the teams prepare for the sprint. Of course, this is the first sprint of the season, adding an extra challenge for the drivers and their teams. But as ever, in Formula One, an extra challenge is an extra opportunity.
And of course, the big incentive here is getting a few extra points on the board, with the top finishers in the sprint set to add to their championship tally.
Well, it's not too long now until the sprint around Shanghai. Well, we'll see who comes out on top.
Really need to stop having thoughts just before those VTs play. But yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a problem for Mick because obviously we can only do mediums, and it's not worth taking laps out. But he has very much out-qualified the car there in 13th. So he would, in theory, go backwards and therefore confidence. Whereas Maloney's kind of done the actual limit of the car. So he should be not overtaken.
The sprint in Shanghai. And it's lights out and away we go.
There's no preamble for that one. I was expecting another VT there. Everyone around the first bend without an issue. No one running wide at all there. Maloney's getting stuck into it with Albon behind and getting away with it. Multiple positions gained. He started 17th. How is that multiple gained? Did force the Haas onto the back foot there, which... don't know if that's given Mick much breathing room ahead. The answer is no, judging by the pictures we're seeing now. But at least they're fighting each other. Ooh. Hulkenberg got massively hindered on that corner, it seemed like. He kept waiting for it on Kevin and then just got absolutely stuck. Bottas is 12th. Sorry, I completely missed that Bottas went up to 12th. And Mickey's actually down to 14th. Bottas somehow got both Mick and Danny Rick. And Tsunoda also got Alonso. No one's gone up the back of anyone in there. It is absolutely wild that Mick can't keep up with Bottas. Oh no, he has kept up with Bottas actually. Bottas has separated off. Sorry, Maloney? I didn't see the move because I was focused on Mick, but also though we do actually get replays in sprints this year. Just outright pace that time round. I'll be honest, I do despise that line. Hulkenberg has fallen off Mick, but I'm gonna have to keep pushing him just to keep him in range of Bottas. Because he's 9/10 behind Danny Rick. Although, briefly 6/10 there. I don't know what happened. There's a yellow. But for who? Sargent at the back, was it? Yeah. Is this an error? How is Mick suddenly 1.5 seconds behind? How did Mick just lose 6/10 in one corner? I'm going to tell Maloney here to not fight Mick, just mostly because it will obviously hurt his confidence if they do DRS overtaking on each other. We just seem to have absolutely woeful drive around that bend before the straight.
Gap is 1.3.
But we finally called Bottas and passed him. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting him to do it immediately. I was expecting him to have to go all the way around and do it on the straight, but never mind. We'll take the overtake where we can get it. Yeah, if Mick could just go for it now, that would be great. Get out of the DRS. It's going to be apparently terrible around that corner. There we are. Just pop that up briefly, just so Maloney gets the best of it. Behind. Crucially, he's out of DRS on Mick as well, so we don't hopefully have to negotiate that anymore. That's actually kind of a fun camera angle for that. Don't be that surprised. Years in the kicks Alba. Let's try and get Mick a margin on these guys behind. Yellow flag, Zhou Guanyu spin. So Zhou's just spun. That's not lots of crashes. That's a yellow flag. Right, okay. Separate incident. Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, I believe. What a surprise. I said behind Zhou Guanyu, or ahead of Zhou Guanyu, depending on which way around that was, is another incident. Albon's got through Maloney at some point, and he's still fighting Bottas. And Hulkenberg, for that matter. So Mick's going to be fighting Albon. His tyres are going to be problematic towards the end. Tsunoda's got the penalty for that. That was definitely Lance Stroll's fault. Are we back to having the penalties be given for the wrong driver again? Which is a massive problem in previous games. No, actually just go on light on your tyres and just sit behind Albon. Let him overtake you and just sit behind him, please, Mick. We're not getting any points here. Just let him overtake you and just sit behind him if you can. Or just drop him. That's fine. Both drivers need to get past Bottas here on the final corner just to have a bit of fun. But that's really it for the sprint. It got a bit boring after that. We only went backwards. Maloney finishes where he started. But I was right, yeah, Mick only went backwards. It's not really that promising. It's not really that promising for the race, is it? Albon again just comes from nowhere in qualifying to... Back to normal qualifying now, so back to normal procedures. Albon immediately ruining both of our drivers' laps. Great. It's the second one that really matters anyway, so... And that's better. After sprint qualifying, it feels like an awful long wait to have to send our drivers back out again at the end there. Crikey. Alright, so Albon was on an in-lap there. So by my estimates, that's roughly where you need to turn the tyres over to get them warm by the start of the lap. Or not, apparently. For some reason, they're taking a lot longer to warm up this time round. Oh, mind you, these are soft tyres, so they'll probably be warm enough momentarily? I am actually quite confused. Okay, so I don't think we lost too much there then, but we're on board with Maloney. Mick's done faster first. Mazane hasn't, somehow. I think Mick got massively hindered, though, by Albon originally. Faster second sector for Mick as well, but not Maloney. What is Maloney doing? He does have everything on. I don't know why he's going slower. Is traffic on the straight, but it is moving out of the way. It's only just recovered from Mick going through. So Mick's got a shout here if he can get 6/10. Or really 8/10 to be safe. But Maloney's got a lot more to get, and he's gone slower somehow. So unless he's had an absolute fumble at the end... I'm sorry, what? Where the hell has that come from? Both Hasses can still ruin the day. Although they might be on in-laps. Oh no, Magnussen's on a flyer. Magnussen is on the flyer, but was fighting Piastri. So Maloney has snuck through there. What happened with... I genuinely do not know what's just happened there. I can only assume we got a slipstream off Mick on the straight, essentially. Because they were right next to each other on the track. Perez has had another stinker. It's a very fickle window to get the tyres up to temperature at the right point. I switched over literally 2 or 3 corners earlier than I did last time when they were late to getting warmed up. And now they're 5 degrees over by the time we've got to the start-finish line. So it's literally a margin of meters to get it exactly right here. Ocon's had an absolute nightmare, incidentally. Perez goes top. Like, Maloney's only real hope here is getting the Williamses, or our Williams, Albon back to his rightful place ahead of Sargent. And here comes Zane, not even checked if he's been going faster. He hasn't. Fresh tyres. Max Verstappen back on pole. He teased them in Q2 by going slower, and then went back to being fastest. It's weird they're trying to make the driver who has the worst smoothers out of the two do the one stop. Oh, they put him on 2 conserve there, pal. I did just watch a little bit of research in regards to conserve versus avoid high-risk curbs, and it seems to be actually conserve or light is typically quite similar in terms of deck rate to avoid high-risk curbs now, but so is the pace. So, not really a huge amount of difference. I think it's largely basically, do you want to do take off pace in this sense, going 2, and get the benefits that come with doing that, or do you want the benefits of avoid high-risk curves, which avoids different things, so it provides different benefits essentially? So, I mean, obviously, absolutely not. Oh, that's why it's trying to make him do that, because Mick was in SQ2 and therefore used another medium tyre. If we're going to use 2 hards, I might as well go soft with Mick, because I'm not doing that. Mick's not going to make that because he needs to push at the start. Maybe go the other way around, go medium at the end. Obviously, it's 5 push at the very beginning. We'll give some wiggle room to those tyres if we need to push them, and do something like that for Mick. 2 seconds. It's 2 seconds lower than the strategy we were trying to do, so we'll do that with Mick. Get in early, get in some overtakes early. He's starting 20th. Pit early, maybe catch up to some people, and then overtake him again. It's the only thing I can think of trying to do. Whereas Maloney, I'm actually kind of happy just to leave as is, or maybe do something like that. Bearing in mind, of course, he's going to get a 5 push at the beginning, so we can make that middle stint a little bit more aggressive on the hard. So now I want to. It does revert it. It's pace mode. Changing the pace mode is what ruined that. Weirdly kept his the same, but 1.7 for a lap here. And away we go.
Well, it's great to have you with us, folks, as we settle in for the weekend's Grand Prix action. The anticipation and excitement may be building up, but there's a cool head on Carlos Sainz.
A second place start for them today. They'll be aiming for a podium, but could they even sneak the win?
And it looks like we're good to go. The excitement is building here in Shanghai. And it's lights out, and away we go.
That's a fascinating camera decision. It is 3 out of 4 for Max Verstappen so far. I forget who actually got the other victory. But it's crucial that Mick gets some places early on. It was Ferrari 2 and 3. The McLaren's not performing that well in qualifying. I'm focusing on the wrong drive here. Maloney's got Sargent and has buggered off. Sargent not on a hard, is he? There is a hard running driver somewhere. I think it's the Alpine. If that's Sargent ahead, that's Sargent's on softs. If that's Sargent ahead. No, that's Albon. We just literally never saw Sargent in that highlight replay because he was off the side of the camera. I think he's on a medium, Sargent. He is. Ocon and Magnussen and Tsunoda on hards. That's what might be why we could see RBs ahead, because Tsunoda presumably not doing too great off the line. Mick unfortunately does have to contend with Gasly, who's also on a soft, and then Bottas, who's also on a soft. What's Hulkenberg on? Soft. Yeah, so unfortunately Mick does have to contend with 3 competent drivers all on softs. I'd be more confident if it was Zhou Guanyu, Sargent, even Magnussen. That were the ones he was fighting with there. But it is Gasly here. I don't know what their ratings are, but probably 85. Bottas, I think, is in the 80s as well. Hulkenberg, I don't think Wood is rated as well, but the Haas, as we've said before, is probably the best of the other cars. And therefore, what Hulkenberg maybe lacks in comparison to Gasly and even Bottas, he gains in car performance. But obviously, this is designed to be aggressive. And he does have DRS now, if he can stay in it, by the time we get round again. Maloney has been dropped by Albon. Gasly's got a mechanical fault and has been taken by Mick immediately. I mean, wild. We'll see that one again as an overtake, I imagine. But Gasly effectively just stops on the corner as he loses his gear, and yeah, sure. That's how that works. Oh, and don't forget Mick does have the target of 18th here. But he is going to be in Bottas's DRS. I mean, unless we have that weird last corner situation, open up, you know what I mean? That weird cornering situation where we just randomly lost 6 tenths again. I'll say Gasly is really struggling immediately with whatever his issue is. Could just generally be his engine. We won't know until he's gone around the lap, but... Alright, so we stop our drivers pushing. We get those tyre temperatures down as quickly as we possibly can. Went a little bit too aggressively conserve on Mick there. Don't mean to take him on to conserve fuel as well. I presume Maloney, Sargent had DRS there. Mick and Hulkenberg have had a right old ding-dong this lap. Still side by side. This highlight, I think, continues for half a lap, essentially. We're not going to see the entire one, but I think Hulkenberg comes back at that. But I don't know what happened to Hulkenberg, but he's now down 3 places. So he clearly got compromised somewhere in this process. We'll watch this Schumacher overtake on Ocon. Yeah, Hulkenberg's already down behind... Oh, no, Ocon was ahead to begin with. Fascinating that Mick's on Maloney's tail already here. All right, so I think we can go aggressive on Mick now. Because that's what this stint's designed to do. And Maloney's back past Sargent. We're getting a lot of helicam replays here, but the very least it's nice and clear and you can see that. Sargent's actually running all right for Sargent here, 15th. Maybe this track suits the Williams in general, but we're obviously going to have a problem with people like Ocon behind. I say that, we've dropped Ocon. Sargent's got Maloney, but Maloney is going to be in DRS this time round. We do have a smidge of space here, so I'm tempted just to try and get Zane to drive away from Maloney real quick. We'll watch the replay. This is an interesting camera angle. Avoid that. Don't hurt the underfloor, Zane. We know what you're like. Still none of the wiser what happened in Japan in that respect. But yeah, if we can try and get Zane to drop Sargent and effectively force Sargent to defend for Mick rather than attack ahead. Nope, that didn't work. Best laid plans and all that. It's lap 10 and Maloney is still fighting Sargent for 14th.
Close up the gap.
The good news is Mickey's up to 17th before he's had his first pit stop. And obviously the target for Mick is 18th at any given race. Magnussen now is a fault and is dropping to the back with Gasly. The faults here seem to be rather significant and I don't really know why they're so dramatic here. But can't quite keep up. He's also been taken by Bottas at some point, I just realised, and I didn't even notice that. But Lenny has actually got Sargent out of his DRS this time round without me even doing anything. So I am going to have to recover that ERS that we used trying to get Sargent out of our DRS unsuccessfully last time round. Well, I say last time round, it was several laps ago now, but you know what I mean. There goes Mick in the background. That's a lovely image of just the other car zooming off behind. We'll give him a focus. Now Sargent's fighting with Bottas. Hopefully that slows them down. But I'd say Zane's on target. He is obviously beneath his line, but that line was designed to give him that space. On go the hards. A 2.8 pit stop we'll take. Obviously no traffic because he'll be at the very back. He's the first one to pit. Interesting to check the other soft runners. Evidently trying to be a lot more cautious on their softs. Hamilton's on 60%. Hamilton has better tyre wear on those softs than some of the medium runners. We will just go attack to get these up to temperature real quick. It's interesting the drivers at the back have worse soft tyres than the drivers at the front. Alright, so tyres are up to temperature. We'll do that. Ricciardo now has a mechanical fault. So if he's anything like the other ones, he'll suddenly just plummet through this field. Still no one pits, interestingly. Some of those soft runners are under 40% now. Sargent's fallen behind Hulkenberg now. Bottas isn't really gaining on Maloney, but he does have Hulkenberg for company. I'm trying to work out when I can try and get top up done. Because of their overtaking, they are staying relatively close. Hulkenberg was on soft tyres that have run out. He's now pitted, as has Gasly. I don't want to hinder Maloney too much. I think we can go aggressive on these tyres for 3 laps at the very least before he pits. Magnussen hasn't pitted. He started on hard, so this could be a nice confidence-boosting overtake for Mick Schumacher, because I don't think this will be fought back once he actually gets to him. What's the gap? 7 tenths? Magnussen, crucially, isn't in Albon's DRS. Gasly's problem has resolved itself, crucially, but he's also now a full pit stop, essentially, behind Hulkenberg. So DRS will open. We'll get past Magnussen here without much fuss, I say. It's Magnussen, not Hulkenberg, but he's also just disappeared off the end of the track there, so no need to worry about that one there. Former teammates, of course, but Magnussen overcooking that, trying to outbrake Mick, and utterly ruins what's left of his hards. And goes a long way around, weirdly. Can't imagine those hards looking any good anymore. No, yeah, 37 now. This is where we get to see where the undercut is, because obviously Mick was running with people like Bottas before. Albon has pitted. Albon was a little bit ahead, and Mick's nearly in his DRS. So Bottas has come out about 6 seconds behind Mick. And bear in mind, he'd just been taken by Bottas when Mick pitted. So we actually are going to get undercut with Maloney. Maloney is going to be undercut in this process. Let's make sure he has no problems. I don't believe we were due rain at any point. No. Just because it got overcast, it did confuse me a little bit. Normally, Bottas has caught and passed Mick. That's the hairpin. That looked dangerous. I wish I could see what Bottas' tyres were, but we're not seeing it from that angle. Bottas is on softs, so we shouldn't be too surprised by that. Oh, Hulkenberg basically rams into the back of Zane. That's the undercut. Zane's 7 seconds behind Mick when Mick was 1.7 behind Zane when he pitted. Ocon's yet to pit, so there's still one more place, although that could now be solved. I think that's just Joe Guan Yu going wide at turn 1. It was. Need to watch that again. So yeah, obviously Mick's done this a lot earlier than most people. Hulkenberg pitted a few laps later, but his tyres are just as bad as Mick's. So I think he's had a go on those a little bit, whereas Mick only really pushed them at the start. I thought RB had gone off the track there, but that's just them pitting. Yeah, so Maloney's going to have a Hulkenberg company basically for this entire stint, I imagine. I'm not going to bother watching every single one of those replays. Annoyingly, Ocon pits before Mick can reach him, so I can't overtake him on track legitimately, which means I'm going to have to deal with Mick's confidence just being average, as is Zane's for that matter. I was about to say, thankfully, thankfully, Hulkenberg's dropped Maloney, so I could start recovering maybe a little bit of ERS with him, but Sarge is now on his back, on softs. Having started on mediums, I'm pretty certain, so they've gone medium soft. I think they're basically doing the same strategy as Mick, just in a different order. Zane is next on track to be lapped by the leader. They are about 10 seconds behind Zane, I think, but they are next. So it will happen at some point, so we don't need to worry about the fuel. I mean, crucially, he is staying with the soft-running Sargent here on the worst compound. Hulkenberg is pushing those hards, because he's now 6% worse off than Mick is. Is he going hard, I wonder, going aggressive on them and going too hard? Fascinatingly, Sargent and Maloney did catch Hulkenberg there, who is presumably, as I say, pushing those hard. So, oddly, we do have the pace on them. There's Verstappen looming in the background there on occasion. Still not hugely close to him, but the gap obviously is closing there. Yeah, probably now about 5 or 6 seconds behind. About 5, there he is. About 4 or 5, really, based on Max's lap times. So it's still be like another 3 or 4 laps, I think. Although we are doing 142s, and then he'll be there in a lap, actually, if we continue with that pace. So both Zane and Hulkenberg's got an issue. That's what he might have... Gasly's issue has returned. Hulkenberg now has a mechanical fault, for good measure. There's a yellow flag somewhere else on the track. It says competitor has spun, so... Ocon on 12. Might as well watch it, we haven't seen anything in a while. Of his own regard, just bye. I mean, that's unsafe rejoining. That was 12, Ocon. Actually, don't... Awkward he doesn't know his corners. Either that or the game doesn't know its corners. Considering Zane's struggling to keep up there, I think we might just start to harvest now. He has just been lapped. So we're now in a process of being lapped by various people. But he is now going to get Hulkenberg, just as Sargent gets lapped by someone else, which has massively compromised Sargent going into this corner. We won't bother watching the replay because we're focused on him actually overtaking Sargent now, as a Ferrari looms behind, and we'll force those two out of the way now. I mean, realistically, without any serious amount of retirements from cars ahead, this is all about pride and best place finishes. Points are not on the horizon. Like, obviously at some point Maloney will be pushed back into those drivers, and it has indeed also already been done so. So I think we're clear of lapped vehicles for the time being. Perez and Piastri not a huge amount of time behind, but for the time being we're relatively clear. So Maloney should get Sargent this lap. Hulkenberg's issue has detached him. Mick, meanwhile, now 9 seconds behind the soft-running Bottas, whose tyres have to be going by now. Surely, yeah, 35. Sargent's have got to be going by now as well. Mick is yet to be lapped? No, Mick has been lapped as well. Bottas has been lapped. Sargent pits off his softs. Does he go on to hards? He does. So, yeah, he was doing the same strategy, just in a different order. He's finishing on the hardest tyre, whereas we're finishing on the medium. Bottas pits this lap as well. Zane was about to get into DRS of Mick and then got lapped vehicles to come through him. So now that's pushed him 3 seconds off, but now Mick's going to have to contend with those vehicles. Zane's confidence is in the toilet, despite the fact he's still 15th. Mick's confidence is actually high. I don't know how, but yeah, now Mick's been lapped. But Mick's got DRS off those vehicles that lapped him. It is depressing we are 20 seconds off Albon. On target with both drivers, it's lap 37 for Maloney and lap... Oh, it's lap 37 for both. I might have to... I didn't realise when I set those strategies up they were on the same lap. because that could now be a problem. A lot of those mechanical issues have actually resolved themselves. I'm going to let my drivers race because, for the most part, overtakes are good here. It actually helped Mick stay in DRS range as well. It's actually going to help Mick be dragged along. I can delay Maloney's pit stop by a lap still. Not had the pop-up. Oh, Magnus's mechanical fault will cause him to retire. It doesn't really affect us, we're ahead of him anyway. But Magnus's mechanical... We've literally just had a case of Zane and Mick just bypassing each other occasionally, or largely just Mick being dragged along because his tyres were worse. And Zane's being on push. In fact, actually, I could set him on attack. So Magnussen, when he comes around, will presumably just go into the pits, and then retire. So Mick comes out significantly ahead of... That's an RB, actually. He's behind Hulkenberg, though, on track legitimately.
Car behind is Ocon.
By pitting, he has ended up behind the two Mercedes. That's what I was confused by, because the Mercedes were miles off the top 6 there, who had lapped Mick. So Mick has come out in 18th after his second pit stop. Yeah, so Kevin came into the pits and retired. Yeah, so get those tyres up a temperature for Mick. He has come out in 18th, which obviously is his objective monetary reward place for us as a team, with an 11-second buffer to Ocon, who I think has also pitted a second time, onto hards. Zane now comes in. His target is, of course, 20th, which is now effectively safe unless Zane himself crashes out, because Gasly is miles behind anyone else, I think. Oh no, he's only 10 seconds behind Zhou, but Zhou is a pit stop behind Ocon, effectively. That felt slow, but it wasn't a slow problem stop. It was just a slow, normal stop. Yeah, it is concerning me that we've come out ahead of a Red Bull there, presumably Tsunoda. He's about to pit, in fairness, off a set of softs, so... And then he does come out 2.5 seconds behind Schumacher. That's an undercut, frankly. They were running effectively together. He'd literally just overtaken Maloney when he pitted. So that undercut is powerful here. Get those tyres up to temperature. The fact we've been overtaken by so many cars does mean we can push. Lapped by so many cars. Like, we don't need to rely on... Like, unless, like, the entire top 8 now. Top 6, we'll say, just because of the two Mercedes. But unless the entire top 6 crash out, we're not going to worry about being lapped. Unless the entire top 6 crash, we're not going to worry about fuel here. We will be lapped regardless. So, Bottas Albon, Hulkenberg have all pitted for the second time. Has Bottas pitted a second time? How is he so far ahead? I don't understand why Bottas is so far ahead. How has Bottas gained 17 seconds, effectively? He has just been overtaken by Albon and is now falling away. Hamilton's had a pit stop issue and has come out, as has Alonso. Actually, I don't know if Alonso has pitted. Mick got Sargent, and I didn't get a replay for that. But we've got 11 laps to go. Those front runners have now pitted, so Russell is now behind. Hamilton had an issue and is well behind. I don't know if Alonso has pitted. Yeah, Alonso and Stroll have pitted as well, and they're now well behind too. It's Russell that's kind of the problem here, because he's going to come through shortly. Mick gaining on Hulkenberg, 10 laps to go. Does have Russell behind, but DRS is going to drag him towards Hulkenberg before he gets lapped. Unfortunately, Russell is dragging Sargent with him a little bit as well, having just lapped him at the wrong time. Maloney's just been lapped by Alonso, I assume that is, which has pushed him further behind. Hulkenberg's now got an issue again, and by virtue of being lapped, it's accidentally put Sargent into range of Mick. Yeah, and Mick being lapped by Russell there, presumably at the exact worst time, has put Sargent in range. We'll get Mick to deploy here, because... We're getting Mick to deploy here because Hulkenberg is... Oh no, Hulkenberg got lapped before the main... I thought Hulkenberg was about to be caught for the main straight, and then that would push him out of the way at the start of it, and that would massively compromise him. But he's also developed an issue again. I don't know where the detection point is for the main straight. Oh, it's before the bend. So we're going to deploy to defend from Sargent, who doesn't get anywhere near, even with DRS in the end. But, of course, Russell doesn't exactly run away from Hulkenberg here. So it'd be nice if Schumacher had DRS, he does, on Hulkenberg. Pop him back on neutral now because he should be able to deal with it himself as Russell vanishes. Bottas now has a mechanical fault. I don't know why they put them as replays because you never actually see anything wrong with them. With 10 laps to go, Bottas is 10 seconds ahead of Hulkenberg. If that fault is serious enough, he is catchable for another 14th place finish. Both drivers doing fine on tyre wear. Mick's having a go here at Hulkenberg well before any DRS straight, which is not really sensible. But I appreciate him going for it here. I mean, Gary with the Captain Obvious statement there. Although, ironically, the Haas is no longer in front of him, is it? Deploy again there. We'll watch that replay because it's great. Another Helicam replay, annoyingly. It's not great for thumbnails, this. I'm sure I'll find one somewhere. German on German action. But yeah, we'll deploy with Mick to try and get him away. Might just attack the tyres briefly just to make sure he gets away from Hulkenberg, or at least defends from Hulkenberg, I should say. Is there an outside chance Mick gets in Russell's DRS here? Because Russell hasn't exactly vanished. No is the answer to that question, but we can't exactly push the tyres too much. We can push the fuel, and we'll deploy a little bit more just to make sure we stay outside of a second of Hulkenberg by the time detection happens. But it is 7 laps to go, and Mick is 7 seconds behind Bottas, who has to be lapped by Russell as well, which will obviously push him back into us that little bit more. So if Russell can catch Bottas, then we'll probably catch Bottas. Push the forward on Maloney as well, see if he can catch Sargent. And he does while I'm not paying attention. Lovely. That's what you like to see. I wish 66% of his lines weren't cocky little lines, but never mind. He has 1 disbelieving line and then 2 cocky lines. It's really annoying. But 5 laps to go. Mick is 3 seconds behind Bottas, whose hards are worse than Mick's mediums somehow. They are pushing those hards. Sargent's hards are done. That's wild. Yeah, but only was 2.5 seconds faster than... I mean, that's DRS overtake as well involved, but... No, it isn't. It could be lapping involved because the RB's caught. No, actually, he's miles behind the cars that have lapped him. That's just his pace. He's terrible right now. Unfortunately, Zane does have 2 cars that are about to lap him, which are Stroll and Ricciardo, I think. Depressingly, the car in 12th. No, Tsunoda and Stroll. It's Tsunoda and Stroll. But again, still depressingly, the car in 11th. What strategy has Tsunoda done? Because he's on softs again. He's had 2 softs here. I'm pretty certain. I mean, that's not really a lapping. He's gone almost full speed there. I get back up to speed immediately here. So let's not have any faffing around there. Annoyingly, Zane's going to be in a position to unlap himself against Stroll here. And then he'll immediately be forced back again. So I might as well top up behind him. Who's behind Mick? Alonso. No, Hamilton. And Alonso. Russell caught and passed Bottas a long while ago, actually. If you could let him lap you there, get the DRS detection. Great work, Mick. Great work. That cancelled out that lapping, pretty much. Stayed about 2.4 behind him. I mean, he does have Alonso as well incoming. There is a yellow flag now. It's Sargent. That takes him out of the fight with Maloney at least, so we don't need to worry about that. But Maloney's now in range of Hulkenberg, who's not having a fun time on those hards. I'll take him off top of it. No, we don't. We don't need to save any fuel, as Hamilton has lapped Bottas, and that has forced him into mixed range. We'll take him off attacking deploy here. Again, this is for 14th, and Bottas is wounded. It's a shambles that we're having to hunt him down at the end here, really, considering it is the kick Sauber. I don't know how he's managed that strategy-wise to have been that far ahead. Bottas has left him behind, though. Albon has left him behind on the medium, so it might just be the hard's pace being rubbish that's caused this. Norris is leading, by the way, by 3 and a bit seconds. It doesn't look like it's going to be a Max Verstappen win. Now, what we need here is Hamilton to have left Bottas's range. He hasn't. And to make sure Alonso doesn't get into range on the final lap. So Hamilton did leave Bottas's range. I wasn't expecting it to happen, actually, but he has. And now, final lap. We're going to be at roughly 50% as we cross the line, so we should be able to... We're going to have to watch that again because we didn't really see it live. Around the outside into the hairpin. Well, it took him the entire stint to get there, but he's got there and passed him. We can attack everything. Bottas is going to take an attacking line into turn 1, but that is that. Ocon is 2 laps behind. Maloney has just been lapped for a second time. We can deploy here. He's got Hulkenberg to get, by the way, still. And Norris has just allowed him to pass. Cheeky little sods ain't there, but we'll take that. Ricciardo's mechanical fault gets worse at a completely irrelevant time. They're just starting their final lap, I think. But going all out, final lap, nothing really to play for here. No point really hurting any more systems. Bottas is 3 seconds behind. He's not getting back there. We can leave that with Mick. And similarly, Hulkenberg 2 and a bit seconds behind here. In fact, Hulkenberg got lapped by Verstappen as well. So 4 seconds. I'm actually going to leave Zane pushing to make sure Verstappen doesn't cause a problem lapping him. Oh, Mick actually had 1 more lap. But the leader's now across the line, so Zane is done. Mick's still got to get all the way around again. We'll give Norris some dues here. There's Zane behind. Hi, Zane. With DRS on Norris, he actually stayed in DRS range by the end of that lap. So Norris wins 1 lap. Actually, worth noting, they started, I think, 5th and 7th, Norris and Piastri. I mean, it's just a parade lap, really, for Mick at this point. Shout out to me pushing him a lap early, by the way. 17 seconds behind Albon by the end of the race. Went a second faster than Albon the last lap, but that was pushing everything, of course. That's essentially the gap we've got to close, is that 17 seconds to Albon. That's the first target, because that is a good driver in a car that is better than ours. Because it's probably Williams and Haas, then us, then Alpine, then Kick Sauber at the bottom. But it is obviously Albon's quality as a driver that keeps him well ahead of Mick in a marginally better car as well. So that's the 17 seconds over race distance, of course, over 58 laps or whatever that was, 56 laps. But yeah, Lando wins, one race early. A race he thought he probably ought to have won in real life. Honestly, Lando could have had 5 wins this year if things had gone his way, but in real life. So yeah, Lando fourth. He started 4th and 6th. Did those two, and they did go up places. But Max down 1, Carlos down 2. Kevin the only retirement in a race that saw Mick go up 6 places. He pulled an Albon. Albon started 13th and ended 13th. It is fascinating that Mick ended up that far ahead of Maloney in the end. But a race for Valtteri, who got up 4 places in of his own regard there as well. Top 10 boring though. I'm surprised that doesn't bring up Zayn on countback at any stage there, because it was Zayn that was 16th, and I feel like that might be his best position. But we do get countback on Alpine somehow. Another 700 grand there. If we can put in 700 grand every race. 77 for Zayn as well now. Both 77 and both happy overall. Team principal is negative. Facilities they don't like, but facility upgrades are going to help them. Yeah, it does bring up their stuff a little bit. Smooth is still only 76 there. 82 for Zayn as a happy driver. Parts have failed on Mix. Gonna have to build another underfloor just to get us through Miami. The designs get done for the next version before Miami. I can't build them before Miami, so there's no point building them. In fact, we get 3 designs in before Miami, but we're not going to be able to build 3. So I've just realised there's no point designing 3 pieces at the same time, because I can only ever manufacture 2 at any given point anyway. So I could design 2 and then research something, I guess, to try and spread out my engineers a little bit more and get a little bit more expertise in that sense. But it is 2 weeks until Miami in-game. We do get the boardroom upgrade. Oh, memorabilia room, even though we don't have any, does effectively double the extra mentality the drivers just have in general. And it's 580k? Worthwhile doing, I think. Getting that ahead of schedule, really. But that's the only thing we're going to do, actually, I think. So next time out, another sprint race in Miami, of course. So another bumper episode, as it were. So I'll see you for that. If you enjoyed this, do like, comment, subscribe. It is a bit awkward, I guess, that we're effectively running 14-16 every single race. We're not... You know, we had a little bit of carnage in Saudi Arabia, as I said before. We've not had a proper carnage session just yet. We've not had one of those ones where we can randomly maybe sneak into the points. We've not had a race like that yet. But I've seen it happen to other people, so I know it does happen. Just got to pray it happens to us at some point. I should say for us rather than to us. But thank you for watching anyway. Until next time, ta-ra.